Have you ever wondered why some people, seemingly powerless, can wield a strength so raw, so pure, that it can move mountains in the lives of others? Picture this. The morning's cold, not quite winter but enough to make your breath catch, and there, outside the sterile walls of a children's hospital in Birmingham, Alabama, a boy sits. You wouldn't look at him twice, for there's nothing remarkable about him. Tattered shoes held together by duct tape, a coat too big for his slight frame, and a red knit beanie pulled low over his brow. Yet, his eyes, steady and piercing, hold a wisdom that belies his years, as if he's seen the world's heart and knows its secrets. This boy, Zeke, is no one in particular, just a child on a cardboard box, scribbling in a worn notebook. But today, he will shift the course of a man's life, a man who has everything and nothing, a man named Jonathan Reeves. The wind bites at the corners of the streets, weaving through Birmingham's gray buildings and across the icy pavement. People hustle past, bundled in coats, hands buried in pockets, each chasing their own purpose or fleeing their own ghosts. Jonathan, a man of wealth, walks among them, but his steps are heavy, burdened by a fear that gnaws at his soul. His daughter, Isa, sits in a wheelchair, her spirit dimmed since an accident stole her ability to walk. Her eyes, once bright with a child's curiosity, now stare blankly, as if the world has faded to a shadow. Jonathan, rich in gold but poor in hope, carries her frail body, his heart, a battlefield of despair and longing. No amount of money can mend what's broken. No doctor's words can fill the void where Isa's laughter once lived. You see, Jonathan is a man who has built empires, but in the face of his daughter's suffering, powerless, the hospital looms before him, a monument to his failures. Its revolving doors a gateway to more tests, more sterile rooms, more promises of progress that taste like ash. He doesn't notice Zeke at first. How could he? The boy is just another figure in the crowd, invisible to a man drowning in his own grief. But Zeke notices him, those steady eyes unblinking, cut through the haze of Jonathan's despair like a blade. The boy's pencil moves swiftly across his notebook, capturing something, perhaps the weight of the world, perhaps the hope it still holds. Then it happens. Jonathan, cradling Isa as he approaches the hospital doors, hears a voice, small but clear, slicing through the morning's chill. "Sir, I can make your daughter walk again." The words hang in the air, bold and impossible, like a prayer spoken in a storm. Jonathan freezes, his arms tightening around Isa, who remains silent, her gaze lost in the distance. He turns, expecting a cruel jest, but finds only the boy, standing now, his notebook tucked under his arm, his eyes locked on Jonathan's with a quiet certainty that unsettles the soul. "What did you say?" Jonathan's voice is sharp, trembling with a mix of anger and something he dares not name. Hope, perhaps, or the ghost of it. The boy, Zeke, doesn't flinch. "I can make her walk again," he repeats, his tone steady, as if he's speaking a truth as old as the earth itself. You might wonder, watching this scene unfold, what you would do. Would you dismiss this child, this beggar in patched clothes, who dares to promise what specialists cannot? Or would you pause, caught by the weight of his gaze, the unyielding belief in his voice? Jonathan's instinct is to scoff, to walk away. He's heard promises before. Doctors with charts, therapists with plans, all offering hope that crumbles under scrutiny. But there's something about Zeke, something in the way he stands, not begging, not pleading, just present. His eyes hold no deceit, only a quiet knowing, as if he's seen the end of this story and trusts its unfolding. Jonathan's heart, battered and guarded, feels a crack, a sliver of light piercing the darkness. He wants to believe, even if it's foolish, even if it's desperate. "You're just a kid," Jonathan mutters, his voice thick with skepticism. What could you possibly know? Zeke doesn't waver. I know enough, he says softly, his words carrying a weight that makes Jonathan's breath catch. The boy steps closer, his duct-taped shoes scuffing the pavement, his too big coat swaying. Give me an hour. If nothing happens, you walk away. But if something does, he trails off, letting the possibility hang between them. A fragile thread in the cold morning air. Jonathan looks down at Isa, her small body still in his arms, her face a mask of quiet resignation. The doctors have told him to be patient, to wait for miracles that may never come. Their words are hollow, but this boy's are not. There's something alive in them, something that stirs the embers of hope. Jonathan thought had long gone cold. He hesitates, torn between reason and the faint pull of something deeper, something primal. What would you do? Standing there, your child in your arms, a stranger offering a chance no one else has dared to give? Fine, Jonathan says at last, his voice rough. 1 hour. Zeke nods, a simple gesture, and turns toward a nearby park, his steps deliberate, as if he's walked this path 1,000 times. Jonathan follows, pushing Isa's wheelchair, his heart pounding with a mix of fear and fragile hope. The park is a quiet place, forgotten by most, with cracked basketball courts and a lone oak tree standing sentinel. Zeke stops beneath its branches, laying out a worn towel with the care of a ritual. His movements precise. You might feel it now, the tension in the air, the weight of what's about to unfold. Jonathan watches, his skepticism warring with the quiet pull of possibility. Zeke kneels beside Isa, his eyes softening as they meet hers. Hi, Isa, he says, his voice gentle, like a friend greeting another after a long absence. Isa's gaze flickers, a spark of recognition in her eyes. The first Jonathan has seen in months, and in that moment, you can't help but wonder, what is it about this boy, this child with nothing, that carries such power? What strength lies in his quiet presence, his unwavering belief? The park lies still under the gray Birmingham sky, its cracked paths and sparse grass bearing witness to the quiet drama unfolding beneath the old oak tree. Jonathan stands, his hands gripping the handles of Isa's wheelchair, his heart a tangle of doubt and yearning. The boy, Zeke, moves with a purpose that seems too large for his small frame, his duct-taped shoes whispering against the ground as he prepares the space. The towel he lays out is worn but clean, its edges folded with a care that speaks of reverence, not haste. You can almost feel it, the weight of this moment, the fragile thread of hope stretched taut between a father's desperation and a child's quiet certainty. Zeke kneels beside Isa, his eyes meeting hers with a gentleness that cuts through the sterile distance of hospital rooms. "Are you ready, Isa?" he asks, his voice soft like a breeze stirring leaves. Isa doesn't answer, but her gaze lingers on him, a flicker of curiosity breaking through the haze that has shrouded her for months. Jonathan watches, his chest tight, his mind racing with questions he doesn't dare voice. What is this boy doing? What can he possibly offer that doctors, with their degrees and machines, have not? Yet there's something in Zeke's presence, a stillness that commands attention, a belief that feels like it could bend the world to its will. You might stand there in Jonathan's shoes and feel the same pull, a war between the rational and the impossible. The world has taught you to trust in expertise, in credentials, in the tangible. But here is a boy with nothing but a notebook and a pair of cracked glasses hanging from his collar, offering what no one else has, a promise that feels like truth. Zeke begins, his hands gentle as he places a warm rice pack beneath Isa's legs his movements deliberate, like a healer from some ancient tale. He speaks to her not as a patient, but as a person, asking questions that seem trivial but carry weight. "What's your favorite color, Isa?" he asks, his fingers guiding her ankle in a slow rotation. "Purpled," she whispers, her voice so faint it might be mistaken for the wind. Jonathan's breath catches. It's the first word she's spoken in weeks, a small crack in the wall that has separated her from the world. Zeke smiles, not with triumph, but with a quiet acknowledgement, as if he expected this all along. "Purple's a good one," he says, his voice light. "Mine's blue, like the sky when it's clear." He continues, asking about her favorite food, her favorite song, each question a thread, weaving her back into the fabric of life. Jonathan stands frozen, his hands still on the wheelchair, his eyes fixed on his daughter. He's seen therapists work with her before, their voices clipped and professional, their focus on progress charts and milestones. But this is different. Zeke's questions, his gentle touch, his unhurried presence, they're not about fixing Isa. They're about seeing her, truly seeing her, in a way that makes her more than her condition. You can feel it, can't you? The way the air shifts, the way hope creeps in, unbidden, like dawn breaking after a long night. Zeke asks Isa to try moving her toes, his voice steady, patient. "Just a little," he says, his eyes never leaving her feet. Jonathan braces himself, expecting nothing, dreading the familiar ache of disappointment. Isa's brow furrows, her small face tight with concentration. For a long moment nothing happens. The park is silent, save for the rustle of leaves and the distant hum of the city. Then, almost imperceptibly, her toes twitch, a movement so small it could be missed, but to Jonathan, it's a thunderclap. His heart leaps, a surge of something he hasn't felt in months, possibility. "Did you feel that?" Zeke asks, his voice calm, as if this miracle is just another step in a journey he's walked before. Isa nods, her eyes wide with surprise. "A little," she whispers, her voice stronger now, tinged with wonder. Jonathan's knees weaken, and he grips the wheelchair tighter to steady himself. He's seen this moment in his dreams, in the quiet hours when he dared to imagine a future where Isa could walk again. But dreams are fragile things, and he's learned not to trust them. Yet here, in this forgotten park, under the gaze of a boy who should know nothing, something is happening. Zeke continues, guiding Isa's legs through gentle stretches, his hands steady and sure. He doesn't rush, doesn't push. He speaks to her in that same quiet tone, asking about her favorite book, her favorite game, each question drawing her further out of the shell she's been trapped in. Jonathan watches, his skepticism eroding with every small movement, every faint smile that crosses Isa's face. You might wonder, watching this unfold, what it is about this boy that makes such a difference. Is it his simplicity, his lack of pretense? Or is it something deeper, something that speaks to the soul's quiet need for connection, for belief? The hour passes too quickly, yet it feels like a lifetime. Isa's movements are still small, still tentative, but they're there, real, undeniable. Her toes curl slightly, her knees lift just a fraction. Each motion is a victory, a defiance of the despair that has haunted Jonathan for so long. Zeke stands, wiping his hands on his coat, his expression unchanged. "It's a start," he says simply, as if he's commenting on the weather, not a miracle. A miracle. Jonathan wants to speak, to thank him, to demand answers, but the words stick in his throat. What can you say to a child who has given you back a piece of your daughter's life? As they prepare to leave, Isa's fingers trace the armrest of her wheelchair, a small, restless movement that speaks of something awakening inside her. Jonathan looks at her, really looks at her, and sees a spark in her eyes that he thought was lost forever. It's not just the movement of her body, It's the return of her spirit, the faint glow of the girl she used to be. He turns to Zeke, who is packing up his towel and rice pack with the same care he used to lay them out. "Next Sunday?" Jonathan asks, his voice thick with emotion he can't quite name. Zeke nods, his eyes meeting Jonathan's for a brief moment. "Same time," he says, and there's a promise in his words, a quiet vow that he'll be there as he always is. Jonathan pushes Isa's wheelchair toward the car, his heart lighter than it's been in months. You can feel it, can't you? The shift in the air, the sense that something fundamental has changed. Not just for Isa, not just for Jonathan, but for everyone who witnessed this moment. The boy, with his tattered shoes and unwavering gaze, has done something no one else could. He's given them a reason to believe again. The Birmingham sun climbs higher, casting slanted shadows across Harrington Park, where the oak tree stands like a silent guardian over the small miracles unfolding beneath its branches. Jonathan wheels Isa back to the car, her fingers still tracing the armrest, a restless rhythm that echoes the stirring in her soul. The air feels different now, lighter, as if the weight of despair has begun to lift, not just from Jonathan, but from the very ground they tread. Zeke's words linger in his mind. It's a start, simple, unadorned, yet heavy with promise. You might feel it too, standing in this moment, the way hope creeps in like a tide, slow but relentless, washing away the jagged edges of doubt. The week passes in a blur of routine. Hospital visits, therapy sessions, the endless drone of medical jargon that Jonathan has come to loathe. But something has shifted. Isa's silence, once a wall, now feels like a pause, a breath held before speaking. She looks out the car window on their drives, her eyes catching the world in a way they haven't in months. Jonathan notices, and it stirs something in him. A fragile belief that maybe, just maybe, the boy in the park has unlocked something no doctor could. You know that feeling, don't you? When the world, so long gray and unyielding, begins to shimmer with possibility. And you're afraid to trust it, afraid it might vanish if you look too closely. Sunday arrives, and the park is waiting, its cracked paths and sparse grass unchanged, yet somehow alive with anticipation. Jonathan pushes Isa's wheelchair toward the oak tree, where Zeke is already there, his towel laid out, his gym bag at his side. The boy's presence is a constant, like the tree itself, rooted and unyielding. His eyes meet Jonathan's, and there's no need for words. The understanding between them is a quiet current, flowing beneath the surface. Isa's gaze finds Zeke, and for the first time there's a spark of recognition, a faint smile that tugs at her lips. It's small, but to Jonathan, it's a beacon in the dark. Zeke kneels beside Isa, his hands steady as he begins the work again, guiding her legs through gentle stretches. "What's the best thing about purple?" he asks, his voice light, as if they're sharing a secret. Isa hesitates, then whispers, "It's like a sunset when the sky's all soft." Zeke nods, his smile warm, and Jonathan feels a pang in his chest. This boy, with his patched coat and quiet questions, is reaching Isa in a way no one else has. He's not just moving her body, he's coaxing her spirit back to life, one small moment at a time. You might wonder, watching this unfold, what it is about Zeke that makes him different. Is it his simplicity, his lack of pretense, or something deeper? A kind of faith that sees beyond the visible, beyond the broken. He moves with a purpose that feels ancient, as if he's carrying a wisdom passed down through generations, but felt. His hands guide Isa's legs. His voice weaves stories of colors and sunsets. And with each word, each touch, he's building something, a bridge between the girl she was and the girl she might become. Jonathan stands at the edge, his hands no longer gripping the wheelchair but resting lightly, as if he's learning to let go. He watches Isa's toes curl again, stronger this time, and her knees lift just an inch, but with a confidence that wasn't there before. The movements are small, but they're real, undeniable, like seeds breaking through soil after a long winter. Zeke's voice is steady, encouraging without demanding, guiding without forcing. "You're doing it, Isa," he says softly, and her eyes light up, a flicker of pride that Jonathan hasn't seen since before the accident. The park, once empty, begins to draw others. A mother with a son in a wheelchair watches from a distance, her eyes wary but curious. A father with a daughter who limps on crutches lingers nearby, drawn by the quiet intensity of the scene. They don't speak, but their presence is a silent question, a hope they're afraid to voice. "You can feel it, can't you? You can feel it, can't you?" The way the air hums with possibility, the way strangers are pulled into this moment, as if Zeke's quiet belief is a magnet, drawing them toward something they don't yet understand. Zeke doesn't notice the growing crowd, or if he does, he gives no sign. His focus is on Isa, on the slow, deliberate movements of her legs, on the way her face softens when he asks her about her favorite song. "Twinkle, twinkle," she says, her voice stronger now, and Zeke hums a few bars, off-key but earnest, making her laugh. A sound so pure it cuts through Jonathan's heart like a blade. He hasn't heard her laugh in so long, and it's as if the world tilts, realigning itself around that single, fragile sound. The hour stretches, each minute a small victory. Isa's legs move more freely now, her toes responding with less hesitation. Zeke adjusts her position, placing her feet flat on the towel, asking her to push against his hands. She does, her face tight with effort, and Jonathan sees it. A spark of determination, a fire that had been buried under months of silence. You might feel it too, that surge of pride, that ache of hope, as if you're witnessing not just a child's progress, but the rebirth of something deeper, something that speaks to the resilience of the human spirit. As the session ends, Zeke steps back, his hands resting at his sides. "Good work, Isa," he says, his voice quiet but full of warmth. Isa looks at him, her eyes bright, and whispers, "Thank you." The words are small, but they carry a weight that fills the space around them. Jonathan kneels beside her, his throat tight, his heart a mess of gratitude and awe. He wants to speak, to thank Zeke, to ask how this is possible, but the words won't come. Instead, he looks at the boy, and Zeke meets his gaze, a silent understanding passing between them. The crowd lingers, their eyes on Isa, on Zeke, on the possibility that something extraordinary is happening here. Jonathan feels their presence, their quiet hope, and it stirs something in him, a sense that this is bigger than just his daughter, bigger than this park. Zeke's work, his quiet presence, is planting seeds that will grow beyond this moment, beyond this place. You can see it, can't you? The way one small act, one boy's belief, can ripple outward, touching lives in ways no one could predict. Jonathan lifts Isa into the car, her body lighter in his arms, not just because of her movements, but because of the life returning to her eyes. He glances back at Zeke, who is packing up his towel, his notebook tucked under his arm. "Next Sunday?" Jonathan asks, his voice steadier now, tinged with a hope he's no longer afraid to feel. Zeke nods, his expression unchanged. "I'll be here," he says, and it's a promise, a vow as solid as the oak tree behind him. Jonathan drives away, Isa humming softly in the back seat, her fingers tapping a rhythm that speaks of awakening. The road ahead is still long, but for the first time it feels like a path worth walking. The Birmingham sky softens as spring edges closer, the chill of winter giving way to a tentative warmth that seeps into the earth of Harrington Park. The oak tree stands steadfast, its branches casting dappled shadows over the worn towel where Zeke works. His hand steady, his presence a quiet anchor. Jonathan pushes Isa's wheelchair along the familiar path, the squeak of the wheels a rhythm that now feels less like a burden and more like a song of progress. Isa's eyes, once dulled by resignation, now carry a spark, a flicker of life that grows brighter with each Sunday. You can feel it, can't you? The way the air hums with anticipation, the way a single moment can stretch into eternity, holding both hope and fear in its delicate balance. The park is no longer empty. Word has spread, carried on whispers and glances, drawing families who stand at the edges, watching with a mix of skepticism and longing. A mother holds her son's hand, his legs braced with metal, his eyes fixed on Isa. An older man, his daughter leaning on a cane, watches from a bench, his face a map of worry and wonder. They come not just for Zeke, but for what he represents. A possibility that defies the sterile pronouncements of doctors, a chance to believe in something beyond the limits of their pain. You might stand among them, your heart caught in the same quiet pool, wondering if this boy, this child with nothing but a notebook and a steady gaze, could hold the key to something you've stopped daring to dream. Zeke kneels beside Isa, his hands guiding her legs with the same care as always, his voice weaving questions that draw her out of herself. "What's the best thing about pizza?" he asks, a smile tugging at his lips. Isa's face lights up, a small laugh escaping her. "The cheese," she says, her voice clearer now, carrying a hint of the girl she used to be. Jonathan watches, his chest tight with something that feels like gratitude but cuts deeper, like a wound healing from the inside. Questions are simple, yet they do what no therapy session has. They remind Isa that she is more than her wheelchair, more than her pain. The movements come easier now. Isa's toes curl with purpose, her knees lift higher, each small victory a defiance of the accident that stole so much. Zeke's hands are gentle but firm, guiding her through stretches that seem less like exercises and more like a dance, a slow reclaiming of what was lost. He doesn't push, doesn't demand, he simply is, present, unwavering, a boy who sees not just the body but the soul within it. You might feel it too, the way his presence shifts the air, the way his belief becomes a mirror, reflecting back the strength that lies buried in those he helps. Jonathan stands at the edge, his hands no longer clutching the wheelchair but resting lightly, as if he's learning to trust the world again. He sees the other families, their eyes fixed on Isa, on Zeke, on the quiet miracle unfolding before them. There's a woman with a toddler who clings to her leg, her face etched with exhaustion but lit with hope. There's a father whose son sits in a chair like Isa's, his gaze steady, as if he's measuring the distance between his own despair and the possibilities Zeke offers. The park has become a sanctuary, a place where brokenness is not a sentence but a starting point, where healing is not just physical, but something deeper, something shared. Zeke asks Isa to try standing, his voice calm, as if he's asking her to do something as simple as breathing. "Just a little," he says, his hands ready to support her. Isa's face tightens with effort, her small body trembling as she pushes against the towel. Jonathan holds his breath, his heart a drumbeat in his chest. He's seen this moment fail before, in sterile rooms with therapists who spoke of realistic goals. But here, under the oak tree, with a boy who knows nothing of limits, something feels different. You can sense it, can't you? The way the world holds its breath, waiting for a girl to defy the odds. Isa's legs shake, but they hold. For a moment, a fleeting, fragile moment, she stands, her hands gripping Zeke's, her eyes wide with a mix of fear and triumph. The crowd gasps softly, a collective breath that ripples through the park. Jonathan steps forward, his instinct to protect warring with his need to let her try. Isa sways, but Zeke is there, his hands steady, his voice a quiet anchor. "You've got this," he says, and Isa nods, her face alight with a fire Jonathan hasn't seen in so long. She doesn't walk, not yet, but she stands, and that alone is a victory that shakes the foundations of everything Jonathan thought he knew. The hour ends, but the moment lingers, heavy with meaning. Zeke steps back, his hands resting at his sides, his expression as calm as ever. "Good work, Isa," he says, and she smiles, a real smile, full of pride and something more, belief in herself. Jonathan kneels beside her, his throat tight, his eyes burning. "You did it," he whispers, his voice cracking. Isa looks at him, her eyes shining. "I stood, Daddy," she says, and the words are a song, a prayer, a promise. The other families draw closer now, their skepticism softening into something else. Hope, perhaps, or the beginning of it. The mother with the toddler approaches, her voice hesitant. "Can you help my boy?" she asks, her eyes searching Zeke's face. The father with the son in the wheelchair lingers nearby. His question unspoken but clear. Zeke nods, his gaze steady, as if he's been expecting this. "Bring them next week," he says simply, and the park hums with a new energy, a sense that something is growing here. Something bigger than any one child, any one family. Jonathan lifts Isa into the car, her body lighter in his arms, not just because of her progress, but because of the life returning to her spirit. He glances back at Zeke, who is folding his towel with the same care as always. His notebook, "Thank you," Jonathan says, the words feeling too small for the weight they carry. Zeke looks up, his eyes meeting Jonathan's, and there's a quiet understanding there, a bond forged in these moments of shared hope. As they drive away, Isa hums softly, her fingers tapping a rhythm on the armrest. The park fades in the rearview mirror, but its presence lingers, a beacon in Jonathan's heart. You can feel it, can't you? The way one boy's quiet belief has become a light, drawing others out of the dark. The road ahead is still uncertain, but for the first time, it feels like a path worth walking, not just for Isa, but for all those who have begun to gather under the oak tree, seeking the same quiet miracle. The Birmingham spring unfurls slowly, like a flower testing the warmth of a new sun, and Harrington Park becomes a living testament to something unspoken yet profound. The oak tree, its roots deep in the earth, watches over the growing circle of families who gather each Sunday, drawn by whispers of a boy who offers what no hospital can. Jonathan wheels Isa along the cracked path, her eyes brighter now, her fingers no longer just tapping but reaching, as if grasping for the world she's beginning to reclaim. The air hums with a quiet energy, a collective hope that binds these strangers together, each carrying their own burdens, their own dreams. You can feel it, can't you? The way a place, once forgotten, can become sacred, not through grandeur, but through the simple act of showing up. Zeke is there, as always, his towel laid out with the same meticulous care, his gym bag a humble altar of rice packs and tennis balls. His presence is a constant, a rock in the shifting tides of doubt and despair. The crowd has grown, mothers, fathers, children, some in wheelchairs, some with crutches, all watching with eyes that hold both fear and longing. A young boy with braces on his legs sits beside his mother, his gaze fixed on Isa, who now moves with a confidence that was unthinkable months ago. An older girl, her arm in a sling, stands at the edge, her father's hand on her shoulder, both of them silent but present, as if they're testing the waters of belief. Zeke kneels beside Isa, his hands guiding her legs through familiar stretches, his voice weaving questions that pull her further into the light. "What's the best thing about a sunset?" he asks, his tone light but deliberate, as if each word is a step in a dance. Isa smiles, her voice stronger now. "The way it makes everything glow," she says, and Jonathan's heart catches a pang of joy so sharp it feels like pain. He stands at the edge, his hands loose on the wheelchair, his eyes tracing the lines of his daughter's face, seeing the girl she was and the girl she's becoming. You might stand there too, your heart swelling with the same quiet awe, wondering how a boy with so little can give so much. Isa's movements are surer now, her knees lifting higher, her feet pressing against the towel with purpose. Zeke asks her to try standing again, and this time there's no hesitation in her eyes. She grips his hands, her small body trembling with effort, and rises, her legs shaky but holding. The crowd watches, their breath held, as if the moment might shatter if they move. Isa stands longer this time, her face alight with a pride that radiates outward, touching everyone around her. Jonathan feels tears prick his eyes, but he doesn't wipe them away. He lets them fall, a silent offering to this moment, this miracle unfolding under the oak tree. The other families draw closer, their skepticism melting into something softer, something hopeful. The mother with the boy in braces steps forward, her voice trembling. "Can you help my son?" she asks, her eyes searching Zeke's face. He nods, his expression calm, as if her question is one he's answered 1,000 times. "Bring him next week," he says, and the mother's shoulders relax, a weight lifting, if only for a moment. The father with the girl in the sling moves closer too, his question unspoken but clear in his eyes. Zeke meets his gaze, a silent promise passing between them. "You can see it, can't you?" The way hope spreads, not like wildfire but like roots, quiet and deep, binding these strangers into a community of shared belief. Zeke turns back to Isa, asking her to try taking a step. The park falls silent, the rustle of leaves and distant city hum fading into the background. Isa's face tightens with concentration, her hands still gripping Zeke's, her body leaning forward. Jonathan holds his breath, his heart a drumbeat of fear and hope. He's seen her stand but a step. That's something else, something he's dared not dream. Isa lifts her foot, trembling, and sets it down, a small, shaky movement that feels like an earthquake. The crowd gasps, a soft sound that ripples through the air, and Isa looks up, her eyes wide with wonder. "I did it," she whispers, and Jonathan kneels beside her, his voice breaking. "You did, baby. You did." Zeke smiles, a quiet acknowledgement, and steps back, giving Isa space to feel her victory. He doesn't seek applause, doesn't bask in the moment. He simply moves to the next child, a boy with crutches who's been watching from the sidelines. Zeke kneels beside him, asking questions about his favorite game, his favorite color, weaving the same gentle magic that brought Isa this far. Jonathan watches, his heart full, realizing that Zeke's gift isn't just in his hands but in his presence, his ability to see each child as whole, not broken. You might feel it too, the way his quiet belief becomes a mirror, reflecting back the strength that lies within each person he touches. The hour passes, and the park feels alive, a tapestry of small victories woven together by Zeke's steady hands. Isa sits back in her wheelchair, her face flushed with effort, her smile brighter than the spring sun. The other families linger, their conversations soft but filled with a new energy, a sense that something is possible here, something they can't yet name. Jonathan looks at Zeke, who is packing up his towel, his notebook tucked under his arm, and feels a gratitude so deep it's almost unbearable. "You're changing everything," he says, his voice low, raw with emotion. Zeke looks up, his eyes steady, and shrugs. "I'm just here," he says, as if it's the simplest thing in the world. But Jonathan knows better. He knows that Zeke's presence, his quiet belief, is a spark that's igniting something larger, something that will outlast this moment, this park. Burwap. You can feel it, can't you? The way one boy's actions are weaving a community, a tapestry of hope that binds these families together, giving them the courage to keep going, to keep believing. As they drive away, Isa hums a tune, her fingers dancing on the armrest, her eyes bright with a future she's beginning to see. Jonathan glances at her in the rearview mirror, his heart lighter, his fears quieter. The road ahead is still long, but it's no longer a solitary path. It's a journey shared with others, with Zeke, with the families who gather under the oak tree, each step a testament to the power of showing up, of believing when no one else does. The Birmingham summer settles over Harrington Park, heavy with warmth, and the hum of life stirring beneath the oak tree's sprawling branches. The cracked paths and sparse grass have become a sacred ground where families gather not just for healing, but for the quiet strength that binds them. Jonathan wheels Isa toward the familiar spot, her eyes bright with a fire that grows stronger. Each week, her steps are surer now, her movements less hesitant, as if her body is remembering what it means to be whole. The air carries a pulse of anticipation, a shared belief that something extraordinary is unfolding here, something that transcends the physical and touches the soul. What? You can feel it, can't you? The way a place, once ordinary, becomes a beacon, drawing those who seek not just miracles, but the courage to keep going. Zeke is there, his towel laid out with the same deliberate care, his gym bag a humble testament to his work. The crowd has grown larger, a tapestry of faces, mothers, fathers, children, each carrying their own story of struggle and hope. A boy with braces on his legs takes tentative steps, guided by Zeke's steady hands. A girl with a cane watches from the sidelines, her eyes bright with a longing she's only beginning to name. They come not just for Zeke, but for what he's awakened in them. A belief that healing is not a destination but a journey, made one small step at a time. You might stand among them, your heart caught in the same quiet pull, wondering if this boy's simple presence could shift the weight of your own burdens. Zeke kneels beside Isa, his hands guiding her through stretches that have become a ritual, a dance of patience and trust. "What's the best thing about summer?" he asks, his voice light, weaving her into the moment. Isa's smile is quick, her voice clear. "The way the air smells, like flowers and sun," she says. And Jonathan's heart swells, a tide of gratitude rising in his chest. He stands at the edge, his hands no longer clutching the wheelchair, but resting lightly, as if he's learned to trust the world again. Zeke's questions, his gentle touch, are not just healing Isa's body, they're mending her spirit, piece by piece, and Jonathan sees it, feels it, in the way she laughs, the way she leans into the moment. Isa stands now, her legs trembling but strong, her hands gripping Zeke's less for support and more for balance. The crowd watches, their silence a shared breath, as she takes a step, then another, her movements shaky but deliberate. Jonathan's throat tightens, his eyes burning with tears he doesn't hide. This is his daughter, his little girl, walking again, not just toward him, but toward a future she's claiming for herself. You might feel it too, the weight of this moment, the way it holds both joy and fragility, like a flame that could flicker out or grow into a blaze. Zeke steps back, his hands at his sides, his expression calm but alive with a quiet pride. "You're doing it, Isa," he says, and she beams, her face alight with a joy that radiates through the park. The crowd erupts in soft applause, not loud but heartfelt, a recognition of her triumph and the shared journey that brought her here. Other children move forward now, each guided by Zeke's steady hands, each finding their own small victories under his patient gaze. The boy with braces takes a step without his mother's hand. The girl with the cane tries a stretch she's never done before. The park hums with life, with possibility, with the unspoken truth that healing is not just for the body but for the heart, the soul, the community. Jonathan kneels beside Isa, his voice thick. "I'm so proud of you," he whispers, and she throws her arms around him, her laughter a sound he thought he'd lost forever. He looks at Zeke, who is working with another child now, his focus unwavering, his presence a constant in this ever-growing circle. "You've given us everything," Jonathan says, his words heavy with gratitude. Zeke looks up, his eyes steady, and shrugs. "I just showed up," he says. But Jonathan knows it's more than that. Zeke's presence, his quiet belief, has woven these families together, creating a tapestry of hope that will outlast this summer, this park. You can see it, can't you? The way one boy's actions have become a movement, a quiet revolution of belief and perseverance. The families gather closer now, their conversations filled with plans, not just for their children but for each other. They share stories, laughter, tears, building a community that holds them up when the world feels too heavy. Zeke moves among them, his notebook tucked under his arm, his hands guiding, his voice encouraging, never seeking praise, never asking for more than the chance to help. As the sun dips low, casting golden light over the park, Jonathan watches Isa take another step, her movements stronger, her confidence a beacon. He feels a peace settling in his chest, a detachment from the fear that once consumed him. It's not that the journey is over. Isa still has a long road ahead, but it's a journey they no longer walk alone. The families around them, the oak tree above, the boy with his quiet wisdom, they're all part of something larger, something that speaks to the resilience of the human spirit, the power of showing up day after day with nothing but belief. Jonathan lifts Isa into the car, her laughter lingering in the air, her eyes bright with a future she's beginning to see. He glances back at Zeke, who is packing up his towel, his presence as unassuming as ever. The families linger, reluctant to leave, as if the park holds a magic they can't find elsewhere. Perhaps it does. Perhaps this is what healing looks like. Not a grand miracle, but a series of small steps taken together under the watchful branches of an oak tree, guided by a boy who asks for nothing but gives everything. The woman, the boy, the man, the soldier who knows their worth, does not chase money, fame, or choices. They simply show up, and in their quiet, unwavering presence the world is made whole.